Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is the Arsenal Transfer Show, joining you every morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me. It is very much appreciated. I hope you have a really good weekend. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves and and enjoyed the fact that there was no Arsenal, because Arsenal, for once in the last few weeks, couldn't ruin our weekends. So we can be grateful for that. Thank you so much for joining me, as always. Do drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Today's show will be a slightly bit shorter. So if indeed you would appreciate that, I mean, I'll tell you why it's shorter in the second part, but that's why it's going to be a little bit shorter than it usually is. Back to normal length, though, tomorrow. Morning to Louis, to Matt Tomo, to Dominic, to Rich. Good morning to Matt G and Josh, Pam. We've got Amir and Sweating Merlo, Raditya, Kaiser, Steve, Matt G. We've got none of them knew they were robots. Very interesting name. Maximius, Granddaddy Gooner, Paul, Damien, Lee, Rob, Bob, Vala, Martin, Errol. Thank you so much, guys and girls, for joining in. It is very much appreciated. I hope you had, as I say, a very enjoyable, relaxing, perhaps, weekend. Okay, let's crack on with today's stories. We start with Arsenal's 5-1 win over Watford in the Women's FA Cup. 5 goals from 5 different scorers. We had Russo, Wolty, Alstedt, Marnham, and Blackstonis scoring all 5 goals in the game. So Arsenal will progress through to the next round. Of course, Arsenal will be hoping to reach yet another final in the competition. Also, an interesting point of note is that Emily Fox, our January signing, started her first game for the club, and the team overall proved that you can indeed wear that white shirt and not lose the game. So the curse, I suppose, is not broken completely, but knowing that we can wear that kit and still win is certainly a positive sign. But a breeze through into the next round, and of course the chance to see one of our brand new January signings take to the field as well. In the Premier League, it was a good weekend for Arsenal because all of Arsenal's rivals dropped points. First of all, we saw Aston Villa fail to take advantage of Everton's continued plight on a points deduction side of things, which we'll talk about in a second. They drew 0-0 after a controversial VAR call. Not controversial because the wrong decision was made, but controversial because of how long it took to make a very simple decision. Moreno's shot into the bottom right-hand corner was clearly an offside infringement in the build-up, leading to that goal. And for some reason, I really don't think that I really don't think we have to ask any questions about why it took so long. It's because we know that the capacity of these officials at this stage continues to be falling into question. And then into Old Trafford, we saw Manchester United blow 2 leads against Spurs. First of all, going 1-0 up through Rasmus Højlund before Richarlison scored a header from a corner. Marcus Rashford then got back into scoring form with a second goal on the day, and Bentancur with a fantastic touch and finish to draw level and for the points to be shared at Old Trafford, which means, of course, that both Aston Villa and Spurs did not take advantage of the opportunity to open up gaps over the club. Arsenal will go above Villa back into third if they do indeed beat Crystal Palace by more than 1 goal, whereas Tottenham Hotspur, of course, are now level on points with Arsenal, but they've played a game more, so Arsenal can open up a 3-point buffer. They've already got a 4+ goal difference on their North London rivals, so it's incredibly important they do win that game. Of course, Manchester City's win means that Arsenal need to win as well to go level with them, having played the same number of games before we face Palace next weekend. Liverpool, of course, also playing next weekend. They're away at a very good Bournemouth side. Now, I did mention, of course, that Everton and Nottingham Forest have been embroiled in yet more controversy. According to The Athletic, both clubs are expecting to be referred to an independent commission over breaches of the Premier League's profit and sustainability regulations. Clubs will learn on Monday whether they have fallen foul of the league's financial rules under new guidelines introduced to ensure any basic breaches are dealt with in time for punishments to be levied in the same season as a charge is brought. Under these rules, the clubs, as we've talked about on the channel before, can only lose a maximum of £105 million over a rolling 3-year period. And Everton have already, of course, as we know, appealed against a 10-point deduction relating to the 21-22 season, while Forest would join Manchester City as the only top-flight clubs to be charged with breaking these regulations. So let's see how this plays out, but more points deductions for Everton would be cataclysmic for their survival hopes. Forest as well, any lost points on their half would also be very, very damaging to their survival hopes too. And our headline story, and something of a quick discussion point, because the transfer news on the Arsenal front, with this January window being as quiet as we expected it to be, is more of a discussion point. The question of Arsenal, and could they sign Karim Benzema on loan? The player has not reported for Al Ittihad pre-season training, and their manager has also now said that they will move forward with the pre-season training without Benzema, leaving this very much up in the air for a potential January move. There's been suggestions in some reports this morning suggesting he wants to move back to Europe. I don't know how real that is, but according to Marca, he has not turned up, and the coach is not expecting him. Marcelo Gallardo said the player will indeed not be travelling with the squad to Dubai. So this is one that is expected to play out, I guess, across the rest of this January window. But in order for Arsenal to sign him, they would, of course, need to pay his wages. Yes, we can talk about a loan being a financially accessible thing for the club to do. But actually, when you boil down the numbers, you realize how ridiculous it would be. Now, when he was at Real Madrid, he was on 28 million euros, which is about 24 million pounds a season. That nearly trebled. In fact, I think it more than trebled. It did indeed. It went up to 100 million euros per season. 86 million pounds per season is his wage at Al Ittihad. Meaning for the last 6 months of the campaign, if Arsenal were to try and sign Benzema for just these final months of the season, it could cost them close to 40 million pounds. So you could sell Eddie Nketiah arguably for the price tag that we've discussed at around 30 million, and it would not cover the wages of Karim Benzema for the final 5 to 6 months of the season. And so therefore, whilst ideally it'd be great for Arsenal to potentially sign Karim Benzema on loan, the idea that Arsenal would spend around 40 million pounds if they were asked to cover the entirety of the Frenchman's wages would be one of the most financially ludicrous things I can think of. So I don't think we will be seeing Karim Benzema aligning with Arsenal during this window. But stranger things have happened, and of course the door remains open to more craziness in this sport that we love, of course. Right, we're going to move to part 2 now, and a small explanation about what's been going on over the last couple of months right after this. Before I do go into that explanation, though, I do need to tell you, of course, about our prize that continues to be on offer. It's amazing that we have managed to sell 412 of the 499 tickets for this brilliant Invincibles signed squad montage. There's the likes of Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp, Robert Pires, Freddie Ljungberg, Arsene Wenger, all on this poster. So if you're able to get your hands on it, it would make an amazing piece on one of your walls at home in celebration of that 2003-2004 season, which we, of course, are celebrating the 20th anniversary of this season. There are 87 tickets left. Link to the prize is in the description. Right. So I've promised you that I would be explaining what's been going on in the world of why things have been going a little bit up in the air of late, and I can provide you that explanation with it being the 15th of January. As I talked about before, and I'm always very open and honest as to my feelings on the channel. I don't really hold anything back, and I certainly am very open with you about any changes that happen, anything that is going on. And for quite some time, I thought that something would happen that now isn't. For those that are unaware, in November, it was announced that our company, which is known as Reach, would be making 450 people redundant from their company. It has been a period of upheaval. It's been a real challenging time. Me and my other half have been looking at potentially moving house this year. And so this news that came forward was exceptionally worrying for me and for, of course, the hundreds of other people involved in this process as well. For that period through November, December, and into early January even, I was pretty sure that I was going to be going. And I pretty much come to terms with that, in fact. But I fought really hard for my position. I fought really hard to prove that I deserved to stay. And I'm really happy to say that that fight was successful. And I have indeed been offered another role in which I'll be continuing with Football.London into the foreseeable future. I'll still be covering Arsenal in the majority, and I'll still be attending the games at the Emirates, which I'm really happy about as well. But as you can imagine, going through, as I'm sure anyone else who has experienced redundancy or the threat of redundancy, it is really taxing on one's mental health. I use the word one's. That's very very upper, isn't it? But it is very taxing on someone's mental health. And I've been really, really struggling at times to continue to commit to doing the channel every single morning, whilst in the back of my mind is a feeling of inevitable end. Now, we, of course, over the years at Football.London, as you know, if you've tuned into the channel at the Arsenal Way, we've lost some amazing people. Of course, we lost Chris, we lost Alfie, we lost Bailey more recently as well. They've gone on to do really great things since they left the company. Charlie Barkley has, of course, also left us as well at the Arsenal Way, which sucks because I made some great friends, and sadly they are moving on and have moved on to other things in the last year or so in the case of some of them. And Umar has sadly left as well. He's moved on to work at he's got a fantastic opportunity. I won't talk about what his life is. That's down to him. But Umar's gone on to do some fantastic things. Has got a great new gig as well. But it does mean that I'm kind of moving on with the Arsenal Way. I think we're going to be doing some things on the channel going into the new year. You might see a couple of new faces there as well. But we're going to be doing some stuff, I think. But it's been a really tough end to 2023. 2023 was not a it was not a nice year for me. I lost someone in my family, very, very close to me. And then, of course, the end of 2023 was really tough with what has happened. But yeah, it's a relief. It's something that just feels, because as I say, I can't go into the real fine details of it all for obvious reasons, but I fought really hard to keep this position. And now that I have, that I can continue forwards and continue to provide what I hope is perspective on certain things, provide interesting articles for you guys and girls as well, and to fight the good fight in some cases, to try and bring what I think is the reality of certain situations to the fore as well. So thank you to everyone that's continued to support me. Thank you for continuing to support the channel, because this isn't going anywhere. And I know that I said a fair few things on towards around the Christmas time, like, you know, I'm going to be focusing a lot more on the channel, and I'm going to do that as well. You've probably noticed that we've been doing more shows, just more than just the 8 a.m. shows. I've been doing that since I found out that I'm going to be staying. I want to keep that promise. I want to keep the promise to you of doing more stuff on the channel. Of course, it always takes place outside of work hours, but the reason why today is going to be a shorter show is because I've got to go to the office this morning, something that I haven't done in a while, but I will be shooting into the office. But I didn't want to leave you without an 8 a.m. show, so I've jumped on. It's also why I'm basically looking like I'm ready to leave the house, because I am going to be leaving the house to get the train very shortly. But thank you to everybody that continues to support us here. Sorry that I can't take your questions this morning. Thank you for all the kind words I can see you writing in the chat box. It means a hell of a lot. So thank you. I will be back tomorrow morning, of course, to give you a usual show with all of the usual part 2 question taking as well. And we'll get through as many of your questions as possible. I'll make it a little bit longer. I think I'm actually off tomorrow, so we might be able to go for a full hour in the morning as well. But I just wanted to say once again, a massive thank you to all the support that you've given over the last few months or so. It's been very, very challenging. But in the end, it's proven to be fruitful, with all that support. It's really given me motivation to try as hard as I could to stay in, and that's happened. How long that will be for, we never know. That was the 3rd round of redundancies we've sadly had to go through since I've been at the company. So there's never any guarantees of stability in this world. I'm very aware of that. I'm in a very unstable sector in journalism. It's the way that it is. But knowing that I'm going to be continuing, and for you guys to still be reading the work, is going to be a real motivation for me to continue to get better and try harder with plenty of different things. But thank you for listening. I will be back tomorrow morning, as I say. And yes, we'll have a normal show with all of your usual questions answered in part 2. So drop a like, subscribe, and as always, up the Arsenal. Thank you.